And just like that, Jochebed was able to raise baby Moses in her house, and she was able to love him and care for him, raise him healthy and strong. And I'm sure that during this time, she also taught him to love God, to pray to God, to believe in God. And she taught him everything that the Israelites knew about God and how to be faithful to God. Because remember, in Egypt, there were a lot of idols, fake gods. The Egyptians used to worship, a lot of different fake gods that the Israelites didn't. So I'm sure that Jochebed taught Moses to love God and only honor the one true living God. And like a lot of our parents do today, right? So, but the day came where Moses was no longer a baby. And so now he was about 4 or 5 years old, and now he had to go live in the palace with the Pharaoh princess. Remember, the Pharaoh princess didn't know that he was an Israelite, right? So it's still a secret, and she never knew. But then Jochebed had to take baby Moses. Well, not baby anymore. He's a big boy now. He's a kid, like about 4 or 5 years old. And now Jochebed took him to the palace to live with the Pharaoh princess. And the Pharaoh princess was very happy, and she took him in and as her own son, and she dressed him up like all Egyptian boys, and she raised him just like all the other Egyptian mothers raised their boys. So Moses grew up in the palace. This time that Moses was growing up in the palace as the Pharaoh's daughter's son, things did not change outside the palace with the Israelites and the Egyptians. The Pharaoh was still being very cruel to the Israelites. He still made them work very hard, and every day, it was worse and worse. He got meaner and meaner and stricter, and he oppressed them. Means that he was very mean and made them work really, really hard, and was very cruel to them every day. And so one day, when Moses was walking around Egypt, and he saw an Egyptian whipping, means beating or hurting, an Israelite that was working really hard. And you can see that was happening a lot, right? Here we see another one, and then we see more Israelites being hurt by these Egyptian masters. And Moses saw that, and he was very upset. He was very mad. He's like, this is not fair. This is not right. I mean, he's working. He's doing what he's being asked to do. And why does he have to get beat? So Moses stepped in, and Moses did something out of anger. And he tried to stop the Egyptian from hurting the Hebrew. And Moses accidentally hurt the Egyptian, and so he was scared. And what did he do? Well, Moses said, I can't stay here, and he had to leave far away, because when Pharaoh found out, Pharaoh was very mad. He said, what? Who does he think he is? Well, you know what? Now I'm going to hurt Moses. Why did he hurt one of my people? So that's what he did. So he set out to hurt Moses. So Moses, he had run away. He ran away from Egypt as fast as he could to the land called Midian. Yes, he ran. So Moses had to leave Egypt to a faraway land called Midian. So he fled from there. He went away from Egypt because he knew that Pharaoh wanted to hurt him. So when he fled to Midian, he had to have a new job. He was no longer a Pharaoh's, master or anything. So now he became a shepherdman. A shepherdman, which means that he took care of sheep. So he took care of sheep in the mountains, and this was his new job, and he was happy there. And he thought this was it. He ran away from trouble. Now he's in this new home, Midian, and now he has a new job. He's taking care of sheep. But remember, God had a purpose with Moses, and that purpose was not for him to take care of sheep. So one day, guess what happened? Pay attention, because this is super miraculous. This is what God did. Moses was taking care of his sheep, and then at the distance, he saw something that caught his eye. He was like, whoa, what is that? I have to go see. It looks like, I don't know, like a burning bush, like a bush is on fire. So he went and he saw a burning bush. Have you ever seen something like that? It was a bush that was burning, but it was not burning out. What does that mean? That means that the bush was on fire, right? But it did not burn up. You see the leaves are still there. It's still alive. It's healthy. You wouldn't normally see that, right? It would burn up and all become ashes, but not this time. So Moses said, I have to see this up closer. So Moses went up to the burning bush to see what was going on. And just then, he heard a voice. And it was God's voice calling him from the middle of the bush. Yes, from the middle of the bush. God's voice called him, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, yes, Lord, I am here. Here I am. And God told him, take off your sandals. Do you see this? His sandals, he took them off. He said, God said, Moses, take your sandals off, because where you are standing is holy ground. Because God was right there. Isn't that wonderful? And then Moses, he said, God, So Moses was confused, and when he knew it was God, he was afraid to see the bush. He was like, I don't want to see it. I'm afraid, God. I can't see you face to face. And God said, Moses, I have called you. I have a special job for you. And Moses said, me? And God said, yes, Moses. I have seen my people in Egypt, my Israelite people. They are my chosen people, and they are suffering, and they're being hurt. And they have cried out in prayer to me. They have prayed to me, and they have called me to help them. And I am going to help them, and I'm going to send you, Moses. You are going to go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go. And Moses said, I can't do that, God. See, I stutter, and I don't know how to talk. I'm not good with talking to people. I can't do that. I can't. And Moses said, no, Moses, you can do it. I have chosen you for this, and I will be with you. And then he said, your brother, Aaron, because Moses also had a brother, his name was Aaron. He said, Aaron will go with you. Aaron can speak well. Aaron is going to be with you, and he's going to help you. And you too will do what I say. And so now you must go back to Egypt. And Moses said, okay, Lord, I will do what you say. And God told him, you must go back to Egypt. And you must go and tell Pharaoh that he has to let my people go. And I will be with you all the time. And I will free my people from the hand of Pharaoh that is hurting them. And Moses and his brother, you can see a little bit of Aaron's foot right here. So they went back. You can see a little bit of his foot right here. And they went back to Egypt to talk to Pharaoh and tell him God had said to let his people go. Because now Moses was going to do a special job that God gave him, for which God had allowed him to be. And just like that, Moses set off to Egypt to do the job that God had given him to do. He went before his people first to all the Israelites and told them, look, God has heard all your prayers, and he has seen you suffering, and he has heard you crying out to him for help. And God is going to help us. He is going to help us get out of Egypt and not be slaves anymore. And then Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, you must let the Israelites go. God has said to let his people go. And Pharaoh, he had a heart that was very, very hard, like a rock. And God knew that. And so God promised to be with Moses every day through all this journey. He was going to be with him like he had been with him since he was a baby. So that is going to be part of our next story. So this, I told you, is a very long story. So that's going to be the third part of our story. So next week, or maybe Thursday, I will bring that to you. Meanwhile, I want you to remember that God promised Moses that he would always be with him, right? And God has made us that same promise. He has promised you, and he has promised me, and he has promised everyone who believes in him and loves him with all their heart. He has promised to be with us, so we should never be afraid. We are never alone. God is always with us, even though we can't see him, because I can't see him, right? But I know in my heart, with all my mind, I know that God is real and that God is with me at all times. Not just sometimes, at all times. So boys and girls, remember that. Always remember that. That God loves you and God is with you always. Because he promised that. God never breaks his promise. So God bless you, and I'll see you in our next lesson. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, and stay healthy, stay safe, and I love you all, and God bless you.